now that we have seen both the lists and functions, what we are trying to ask is it possible to use functions with lists? Now the answer to this is a programmer can pass a list to a function and as well as perform various operations on the list. Now what is the advantage of using this a function with lists? A list is a data structure which is very close to the real world scenario of how we handle data. For example, if we have a class with students, roll number, and you would like to trace their marks with respect to each and every trimester, then list will be an ideal data type to work with because it supports both strings as well as numbers and a combination of both. Now, now that we have come to know that functions can be used with lists, there are a couple of questions which comes to our mind. Like, can we change the contents of the list after passing a list to a function? So as a separate list, we can do the operations, we can do modifications, but once a list is passed as an argument to a function, is it possible to change its value? The second question which comes to our mind is, should the list be initialized with the values outside the function definition? Is it really correct? The third one will be like, is it possible to pass multiple lists to a single function? During this course of this discussion, we will try to find answers to these questions. Let us get started with a simple example, functions with lists. So here, as we can see, list underscore data is initialized with 5 different integer values. Print underscore list is the function and the list underscore data is passed as the argument to the function. What happens in the function definition is, for values ranging as per the number of elements in the list, the values are displayed. So just a print command. It's just a print command. So what we are trying to do is we invoke a function by passing a list as a parameter. And the final result what we get here is individual elements of the list displayed. Now the sequence of execution would be like at first the list data is there and then the print function is invoked with the list as a parameter and then the function definition is called. Now within the function definition it will be a for loop which will be ranging as per the length of the list. I'm not going into the details. This is a very simple example of using a function with a list. So the example what we saw just now, let us try to execute it and see. As we can see here, the expected output is displayed over here. Individual elements as per the order storage is displayed over here, as per their index positions. Now, continuation of this would be like, given a list, is it possible to split a list and create 2 separate lists using a function? Let us try to go through the example here. So list underscore data has a pre-initialized set of values assigned to it. And the split underscore list is a function which has 2 arguments. The list underscore data as well as a number which basically decides the size of split. The function definition can be seen that there are 2 lists, list 1 and list 2. And the list 1 basically shares the first part of the array which is split and the list 2 gets the rest of the elements. Let us try to execute this code. As we can see here, the list of data, the data list before splitting is shown over here. And since the size of split is 2, the first list has the first 2 elements of the original list and the second list has the rest of the 4 elements. Now we can try to vary the number of elements which need to be split and again try executing the code. Now as we can see, the first list has 4 elements and the second list has the rest of the elements. So what we have done till now is we try to initialize a list and pass a list as a single argument to a function. Subsequently, we try to create 2 separate lists from within a function definition. The next question what comes to our mind is, instead of initializing the list, is it possible to create or append our list dynamically? Now let us consider an example over here. So the test underscore list is an empty list which we initialize, and the list of multiples is the function we would like to invoke. The function definition is shown over here, wherein it basically creates tables for the number given over here. In this case, it's a list of multiples for a specified number 3. Now, within the function definition, it is for I ranging between 1 to 6, we're basically trying to compute the multiples of 3 and append it to the existing list. Let us try executing this code. As we can see here, the value of the list which was empty in the initial case is updated with 3, 6, 9, 12 and 15. And as discussed in the previous lecture, it is also possible to add further built-in commands for the list. For example, in this case, in addition to the value assigned in the for loop, it is also possible to add another element which is no longer multiple of 3, like it can be 100. And let us try to check if this value is also updated in the list. Yes, it can be seen that the final element is appended to the list over here. So it is also possible using the dot append function to dynamically keep changing the values of the list. Now let us see it another example. I would like to discuss one final example using turtles, because till now we have been discussing all our concepts using turtle. Now let us try to again have a list. In this case, we are trying to automate the moving mechanism of a car using this variable, the list name car underscore turn underscore list. Now what happens here is the turtle as well as the movement of the car is passed as the function parameters. And the function within the function definition, what we do is we try to do move the car accordingly. Whenever there is an object, for example, if we'll try to simulate if an object appears before the car, then the car stops and then it moves further on. So the movement of the car elaborated in this function definition. Now let us try executing this code. So this is how turtle combination of a function with lists as well as turtle can be. This is one example. Now let us consider another example wherein we can have two cars which essentially will have two lists, and their direction of movements will be different. So in that case, what we have to do is we have to it is possible to pass multiple lists as arguments for a function. And let us try to do the execution of this code and see. So this is the first car movement, and the second car, in this case I've just followed the same path. So as we can see, they just follow each other. So it is possible to pass two multiple lists as arguments to a single function. Is it possible to change the contents of the list after passing a list to a function? As we discussed now, yes, it is possible to change the contents. The second one is, should the list be initialized with the values outside the function definition? Not necessary. We can also have empty lists. And is it possible to pass multiple lists to a function? Yes, we have discussed that also. We have also discussed what is the impact of a higher order functions. The key takeaway from this discussion is, it is possible to pass lists to a function. It is possible to access and modify an element from a list in a function. Manipulation of a list is also possible, and accessing individual elements of a list, iterating over a list, using strings in list as well as multiple arguments in a function are all possible. And all of these basic ideas are discussed because in real world scenario, when we have a database, using lists with functions helps us a lot. I hope this session was useful. Thank you.